I will be chairing this session. I am AfriNext's IPv6 Program Manager. I've been so for the past 2 years. I've been working with IPv6 for the past 8 years or something, and it gives me great pleasure to be chairing this IPv6 webinar for African operators. This idea, this notion came from the 3 partners partnering and organizing it, which are AfriNext, Internet Society, and France Telecom Orange. And the 3 of us put a lot of work and effort into making this happen, and hopefully we make this a success and we make this an occurring event, because we realize as interesting and as effective face-to-face meetings usually are, it sometimes isn't that easy to take time out of work, to travel, or too expensive. So we wanted to be able to provide a platform using the internet technology that all of us use to facilitate and to help us bring together all of our regional operators so that they can discuss some of the main issues that they're facing, and especially when it comes to IPv6. I won't take too much time with the introductions. I'll go with them as we speak. So let's start with the slides. So the title of the presentation I chose to give is The Cost of Not Deploying IPv6. The reason why is because I've been hearing a lot at meetings when I was discussing with a lot of ISPs all over the region, why aren't you going with IPv6? I've been hearing reasons like it's too costly, or we don't have the funds, or I don't know how to justify this to my CFO or my CEO. Or there's no demand and there's no return on investment. I am sure a lot of you heard these reasons before and maybe even used them at one point of time. And this is why I wanted to point out what will happen, the cost that you will actually be enduring if you do not deploy IPv6, or if you choose to not go with IPv6 now. This slide shows the global status of IPv4, As most of us know, or maybe all of us do know, that IPv4 has run out in the global level since early 2011. Since February 2003, IANA, which is the main free pool for IPv4, has run out of /8. And basically, as you can see from the graph, this is how it's distributed. So you can see in North America, it has more than 50% of the space. Europe has 20%. Asia Pacific has 23%. Leaving Latin America and Africa with 4% and 3% respectively. And examining more closely the African region, if you see, so the red represents the distribution of population worldwide, and the green represents the distribution of IPs. So on the African continent, we have 14% of the world's population. However, we only have 3% of the routable IPv4 addressees, which means we almost have 0.1 addresses per person. That is provided, of course, that the entire continent is connected. And as we know, it is not. But as ISPs, as major ISPs in the region, isn't that the major goal? Isn't that the ultimate goal? To be able to connect everybody in your region and to extend your services. Our region has only these 3% of IPv4 addressees. There is nothing more, and we need to get these people connected. Not only that, if we also if we go more in depth in what's happening in Africa, you can also see that we do have a large demand for IP addresses because we're building our networks. We came late into the internet game and we don't have as many networks as some of the developed regions do, so we're building our networks. And not only that, we're building them in an era that is full of smartphones and network-aware devices. Africa has made a huge leap over the past couple of years. We leaped from using paper mail into instant messaging. People now are more used to paying their bills by their phones than they are paying them in person or sending checks. And all of that is due to the growth of the internet services that all of you have contributed to. And there's a lot more network-aware devices now. I personally have more than 5-6 real IP addresses, one for my PlayStation, one for my phone, one for my iPad, and I'm just one person. So when we want to scale that, IPv4 just doesn't scale anymore. You also have stuff like virtualization and cloud computing, where you have a single device that requires more than one unique IP address. And all of that means in order to sustain that growth, and I'm sure all of you know that if a customer is used to a certain amount of service, and at one point you cannot deliver that service, no matter what the reason is, the resources run out, or there's no IP addresses, or whatever it is, the customer will not care. The customer will storm down your offices, demanding to continue providing him with the services he or she are used to. So the only scalable, sustainable solution to that was IPv6. IPv6 came with a single solution to a huge problem, which is there are no more IPv4 addresses. And IPv6 gave us this huge number you can see in front of you in red, which is 340 trillion addresses, in order to be able to connect all of these people and all of these devices, and in order to enable innovation and enable new ways of connecting people together. So I'm sure a lot of you have already heard what I said, but now the point is, so what if I choose not to deploy IPv6? I mean, am I really losing anything? Is there really a cost, like I said in my initial slides? Well, let me tell you something. This chart shows the percentage of African autonomous system numbers, basically networks, that are currently advertising IPv6 prefixes. If you look at the graph, you can see in early 2011, in the AfriCEX region, we had almost 6% of the networks advertising IPv6 prefixes. But now, early 2012, that number jumped to 12%. That's a 200% growth in networks announcing IPv6 prefixes and are visible on the internet. If you are not one of these networks, then your competitors and the other ISPs in the region have just gained a huge competitive advantage against you. If you are not announcing it, then you're not on this graph apparently, then you've already lost. If you don't have plans at all, if you don't even have IPv6 space, then you are way behind in the game, because as the graph shows, there is a huge jump in announcing the IPv6 prefixes and being seen on the IPv6 network, and this is in the African networks. I'll also give you a more closer look, and I won't go after the big countries, because also one of the things that I hear is that you always give examples of technologically advanced countries, and some of the developing countries don't have that kind of resources. So I won't go with the normal examples that we usually give in the region. I'll give 3 other examples. So this graph, and I deliberately have this graph this way, for a reason. As you can see, all the way to 2010, nothing is happening in these three countries, in Tanzania, Botswana, and Cameroon. Well, all the way to 2010, nothing is happening in Tanzania. Early 2010, they started deploying IPv6, and as you can see the growth of their networks advertising IPv6. They're up to like 20% of their networks now speak IPv6. If you look at Botswana and Cameroon, they all had an astronomical lead at the end of last year. Cameroon now has more than 33% of its networks IPv6 enabled. Botswana has almost 40% of its networks IPv6 enabled. If you are doing business in these countries, or if you plan to do business in these countries, and you don't have IPv6 or you don't have plans for IPv6, you are already too late. And, well, I mean, it's not too late to get into the game, but like I said, your competitors already have a huge advantage on you already. Another thing, people always ask for the business case for deploying IPv6, and this is something that I've been hearing a lot. I attend a lot of the international IPv6 meetings, and Phil Roberts will be presenting after me about World IPv6 Day and World IPv6 World Launch, and he will tell you more about what's happening there. But a lot of the ISPs that are turning on IPv6 worldwide have been discussing for a while the fact that the way they can make money with going with IPv6 is simply by supporting those that do not. So if you have IPv4 traffic and you wanted to go on my IPv6 network, then you can do that, but I'll charge you extra because now I'm doing IPv6. IPv4 is an advanced feature. If you want it, you have to pay for that. And guess who will be paying? It's the ISP that chooses not to go with IPv6. Not only that, if you want to turn off IPv6, you have to learn it first. You have to understand what IPv6 is and able to turn it off, because now devices are turning on IPv6 by default. All your laptops or your iPhones or your network components are now IPv6 hungry. And if you don't want them to speak IPv6 on your network, you have to know what IPv6 is to turn it off. And I can give you an example. In my previous life as a techie, I worked with an organization that deployed wireless voice over IP solutions. So they went through an upgrade and they bought these fancy new wireless voice over IP telephony system from one of the major vendors. And they upgraded the VIPs. They gave them the new phones and they took away their old phones. After a couple of weeks, the VIPs were all complaining, saying that they don't want the new phones and they want the old phones. And the complaint was the phone takes too much time to authenticate to the access point. And every time a call drops, it takes so much time and they prefer using their old phones. So we investigated this. This took like 5 weeks for us to investigate every single piece of our telephony system and our wireless system. And at the end of the day, we discovered that these new phones have IPv6. So the telephone is trying to authenticate with wireless over IPv6 and failing several times. And this is what takes time to authenticate. At the end of the day, what we did was we had to deploy our engineers to pass by these VIPs, go by them one by one, and turn off IPv6, because at the time, we didn't know anything about IPv6, and we didn't know what to do, and we had no plans for IPv6. So think about that. If that would happen to you, if your services, your customers were complaining for 5 weeks, and you had to deploy engineers to fix that solution afterwards, how much cost would that cost you? where can we start and how much it's going to cost us? I'd like to give another example really quickly. If you, and all of you know this, if you are rushing into deploying a service, any service it is, whether it's IPv6 or any service you're rolling out, you know for a fact that if you rush into it, it will probably cost you at least three times as much than it would if you properly plan this over a phased period. And that's exactly what I'm trying to prove here. If you start now, you can probably reduce the cost that you will be enduring if you have to rush into this. I can give another example also from my previous life experience. There was a particular governmental project that an ISP had won the bid for. Now, that ISP did not support IPv6. The government forced that ISP to partner with another competing ISP that could provide IPv6 simply because they demanded IPv6 services to be there. And they lost half of their revenue share to the competing ISP simply because the other ISP was capable and they weren't. All of these are examples of how you would lose money if you do not go with IPv6 now. So going back to the question in hand, how can you get started and how much was it going to cost you to start? Well, first of all, you can get your IPv6 base today. If you are a member of Afrinet in good standings, which I'm guessing all of you are because all of you are major ISPs, and if you have IPv4 space from Afrinet, you can get your IPv6 prefixes with no extra additional cost to your membership fee. So that is zero amount of money you're going to pay now to get your IPv6 space. You can find the information on how to get that. You can go to the Afrinet website. I'm sure your technical support knows our hostmasters and has been dealing with them on IPv4 issues. You can easily get your IPv6 now, and that will cost you nothing. Phase 2 of this is really important. Start training. This slide shows the IPv6 training that Afrinet does, but it doesn't have to be an Afrinet training. Afrinet provides free training for its members. It travels all over the region and it gives them free training if we can work out a training plan with Afrinet training. But even if you're not doing this with Afrinet staff, I'm sure you have budget this year to train your staff on a bunch of different stuff. Try including an IPv6 track in that. Try to get them to learn what IPv6 is and play around with it. It's straightforward, but still, if you do not play around with it, and all of you know that comes from a technical background, all of you know that if you do not play with IPv6, then you or with any technology for that matter, you will not be able to properly understand it unless you actually work with it. So training is really important. And again, if you put that in your current budget situation and training plan, then you will not be suffering too much cost, in fact, other than what's already planned. Also, another thing that will only cost you several man-hours is to start surveying what you have. Start doing inventory checklists of your hardware and software, what supports and what does not support. You can just as easily phase out the stuff that does not support IPv4 in your purchasing cycles. And if you make sure that when you purchase new hardware, software, or CPEs that they're IPv6 capable, then by doing these three stuff, then you've already formulated, in a way, your roadmap. You already know when you can start rolling out services, what supports, what doesn't support, when can you support this. And this is very key. This is a graph that I usually like to use as well, which as you can see, there are two people trying out this new thing called the wheel, trying to work out the bugs, trying to understand what it is, and there are two other ones just sitting behind and saying, we're waiting until they work out all the bugs. So let me ask you, who do you think if something goes wrong, will know how to deal with it. Is it the two people drinking coffee, or is it the two ones actually out there playing and trying this new thing called a wheel? And who do you think will it cost more? Is it the two ones drinking coffee and waiting for an integrated solution, or the ones that are actually having their hands in the situation and examining it face by face? I'm wrapping up really quickly here, saying we have two slides of two initiatives we're doing. One of them is a community-driven initiative, which is the African IPv6 Task Force. I'm actually officially launching it on this webinar. It has a bunch of mailing lists, and as you can see, some of them are targeted mainly for ISP. So you have the core and transit and peering mailing lists, so people will be discussing those issues. You have the mobile CPE and access. You have web and application. I encourage you to sign up for these. This is a brand new thing, so you won't find any previous mails, but we will start being very active on this task force, and there's a bunch of initiatives that we're planning on doing, so I encourage you all to sign up for these. Also, another thing that the task force is organizing with ISOC is we're having an African Operators Day. This will be on the 16th of May. And the two main topics we will be discussing are IPv6 and interconnecting here in Africa. And I invite you all to come and participate, either face-to-face or dial-in remotely, because there's a lot of focus this year that we're doing and partnering on doing for these topics. With that, I end my presentation, and I'll be taking questions at the end. So I'll be giving the presentation now to Phil Roberts to do his slides.
Hi, I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, I'm actually handing over the presentation. So Phil is the technical program manager at the Internet Society Standards and Technology Department. He joined in April 2008. Phil has been active in the IETF for over a decade, and he will be giving a presentation on World IPv6 launch. Phil?
Hi, thanks. I'm not sure I've ever driven a WebEx, so we'll see how this goes. I think I selected my slide deck. Can everybody see that? Okay, well, we'll launch into it then. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to telling you about World IPv6 launch, what we are doing this year, what we did last year a bit, and why we think this is important. So, World IPv6 launch in 2012. This time it's for real. We picked that tagline because last year, on the 8th of June, a bunch of big websites turned on IPv6 for 24 hours and then turned it off. This time, it's going to be turned on and it's going to stay on. This indicates that IPv6 is going to be part of regular business operation on the Internet for a large number of people. Another tagline that we have for this is on by default, and I'll explain that a bit more as we go, as we talk about who is doing what on the 6th of June this year. And what we expect to see is that by the end of 2012, within the Internet, you'll be having commercial operations of IPv6 at scale. That doesn't mean that everybody will be using it. It doesn't even mean it will be pervasive or in a large number of networks, but it will be there at a large scale, and it will be a regular operation on the Internet. So you've already heard some of this about why IPv6 is a must-have technology. Clearly, the IPv4 address pool at the global level is gone. At the regional levels is depleting. And even if that weren't the case, there is just no way to connect the next 4 billion devices or users to the Internet. IPv4 was not ever able to do that. Second reason IPv6 is a must-have is because of innovation. You can spend your operations and engineering cycles on trying to extend the life of IPv4, or you can expend those cycles focusing on innovation. And IPv6 enables an open, fully connected Internet, and when it is deployed, the ability to focus on innovation rather than continued connectivity will be real again. When we talk about the Internet at the Internet Society, permission-free innovation is a key part of what makes the Internet what it is. You as a network operator
Phil, are you still here? I can see you chatting, but we cannot hear your presentation. Okay, please do. So until Phil dials back, he just lost the connection. So until Phil dials back, we'll be waiting for a couple of minutes. Sorry for this inconvenience. I see Mitsuki announced to the list of how to follow on Twitter. So if you are following this webinar on Twitter, you can use the hashtag IPv6 Webinar to follow what's happening as well, and the tweets that are being done. Okay, so Phil, can you say something?
Yeah, I'm speaking. Can you hear me okay?
Excellent. Go ahead.
Okay, excellent. Sorry about that. Okay, I think I'll move on to the next slide. What was World IPv6 Day? We did this last June of 2011, and for 24 hours, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, and a number of other websites turned on IPv6 access on their front door. What that means is that if you had IPv6 functionality in your device and you were on a network that was delivering IPv6, when you went to Google, www.google.com, they responded in IPv6. And this was true for Google, for Facebook, for Yahoo, and for all of these other websites. You didn't have to do anything, no special configuration, just worked. We had a couple of goals. One was to motivate the industry as a whole to prepare their services for IPv6. And the second one was to help understand the remaining issues that need to be addressed to have V6 as part of regular operations in the Internet. People had done this before and had good results from doing that, but this was the first time it was done on quite such a large scale. When we were talking to operators last year and to website owners, one of the problems was that there was a chicken and egg problem. Neither the operators nor the website owners were willing to go first in IPv6. The website owners said, there's no reason for us to turn it on because there are no networks that serve it. And the network said, there's no reason for us to turn it on because there's no content there. So we were very happy that the website stepped up and said, we're going to turn it on first. And so Google, Facebook, and Yahoo did, and it was clearly part of their plans for regular operation in the future. We hoped that it would improve IPv6 connectivity by understanding significant issues. And this happened some. There were some improvements made to Chrome. I believe there were some improvements made in operating systems, and we have heard that there are more that are coming. It gave people a target date for delivering on their IPv6 rollout. Many people said, yeah, we were planning on doing this. This is a good date. This is as good a date as any for doing this. So thank you. We'll have it ready by the 8th of June. It spurred organizations to create a plan for rolling out IPv6. I was amazed at the number of companies that told me they wanted to be doing the same things that Google, Facebook, and Yahoo are doing in their network. So it gave them a motivation to go ahead and step up their deployment plans. And it was a great example of how the Internet industry can get together to do something that is in its own interest without having an outside agent, some regulator or overseer to come along and tell people to do this. So it was a wonderful example of the Internet industry coming together. So what happened last June? Nothing. And when we say nothing, I think that means nothing bad happened. Many people told us that they staffed up their operation centers on that day and expected something bad to happen, expected having to respond to a lot of queries and questions and wondering why things weren't working the way that they should. And nobody experienced that. The Internet went along as it goes on every day. It gave the world a basis to think about IPv6. It was pretty clear afterwards that you can do this at scale, that the most popular websites in the world can turn this on, and it won't break the Internet. Although traffic numbers were low globally, it was pretty clear that if you had enabled IPv6 in your network, it will get used with IPv6. In France, 3% of the traffic was from IPv6. This was due to one IPv6 enabled network, Free. And it just goes to show that wherever you turn up IPv6, it will be used. So what were the impacts of this? Well, we heard people in other parts of the industry say, well, that clearly worked. People told me beforehand, they said, well, I had somebody say, congratulations, you've persuaded the big websites to break the Internet. And that didn't happen. People said, wow, these people can get together and make something work, and it's wonderful. For network operators, I think what this means is that content providers are ready. And if you provide access over IPv6, increasingly you will have traffic over IPv6. When you look at your networks, you probably have some understanding of what the data profile is for people visiting these major websites and how much of that traffic would then be on IPv6 if you had IPv6 enabled in your network. And finally, doing this last year proved that a bunch of things that people said about IPv6 just aren't true. People said it's not doable and it won't be done. Well, it is doable and it is being done. That industry players can't coordinate. Clearly they can. And we've heard a lot of people say, doing this really changed my life. hosting company tell me that, I'm glad you did this. All our customers want it now. We had no idea they cared. So it's clearly a mover in the industry. So what are we going to do this year? World IPv6 launch. We set a date for it, 6 June 2012, similar to last year at 0 UTC on that date. Google, Facebook, Yahoo, Microsoft Bing are going to flip the switch on IPv6 on their websites. And from then on, they will be serving IPv6 off of their front page. So all of those websites will be accessible over IPv6 from the 6th of June 2012 ongoing. They're not going to turn it off. IPv6 is going to be part of regular business on by default, which means no special configuration necessary for anyone, anywhere. Who is participating this time around? Access networks, home router vendors, and websites. And we're inviting others to join. We have a website, www.worldipv6launch.org. You can go there and read all about it. Sign up to participate if you can meet the requirements. How are we doing it? Well, we hope that it accelerates many operations. We hope that there are people who are already planning to roll out IPv6 and that they will accelerate to meet this date. I've heard a little bit of that already. I've heard people saying they will try. I'm not sure they will be able to accelerate much, but the hope is that for people who are already planning to do it, motivate them to pull in their schedule. Second, we hope that it encourages adoption. We hope that there are those who don't have plans to do IPv6 who will look at this and say, it's safe now, we can't go ahead and start. And we hope that it changes the definition of the Internet. We hope that industry leaders will look at this and say IPv6 is now part of normal in the Internet. So specifically, who is doing what? Access networks. The list of companies across the top have already made a commitment. They were on the initial press release with us to do the things that we are asking access networks to do. Any network is welcome to join if they can meet these criteria. First task is that new subscribers in these networks get IPv6 on by default after the 6th of June. What that means is that if you sign up for IPv6 service, then, or if you sign up for Internet service, then you'll get IPv6 as part of the package. And you don't have to go to a website anywhere to turn it on. It will just be there. So that's what it means for new subscribers getting V6 on by default. Now we understand that in networks, it's going to depend a lot on what people have in their home in terms of whether or not V6 will actually show up from a network. So in my case, the device that I'm using now is V6 capable, and I'm told by my ISP that they are about to turn up IPv6 on the network, but I have a wireless router between this device and the network that doesn't pass IPv6. So unless I'm actually plugged into the ISP's DSL modem, none of my stuff will show up on IPv6. And we understand that there are situations like that in people's homes. But even understanding that, we're asking the ISPs to turn up enough end users so that 1% of the traffic coming from their networks to the big websites will be done using IPv6 by the 6th of June. And the last key thing about access networks is that we are making this a measurable activity. So the big websites, Google, Facebook, Yahoo, and Microsoft Bing, are going to be measuring the traffic coming from the networks that sign up and saying, we're seeing this much traffic. So, and we will display that on the World IPv6 launch website. So that's access networks. IPv6 on by default for new subscribers after the 6th of June. And by the 6th of June, 1% of the traffic coming from a network will be done over IPv6. And all of those at the top have agreed to do that. Home router vendors are also joining in. Cisco and D-Link were on the initial press release, and the ask for them is twofold. Again, on by default, no user configuration required to use IPv6. So if you buy one of these devices and plug it in, it will just have IPv6 capability running. You don't need to configure it in any way. Second is that across their products, a majority of the products shipping will have IPv6 on by default. Both of those companies have agreed to that. So they expect that by the 6th of June, most of what they ship will have IPv6 on by default, and that on none of those will people have to configure the device to use IPv6. And we're working with the UNH Interoperability Lab to verify V6 interoperability. We have a particular version of the V6 spec that we are pointing people to. And if somebody wants to sign up, they are welcome to. They have to agree to the two things publicly, and then they have to get at least one of their devices verified from the UNH IOL interoperability test. And last, but certainly not least, websites are participating. And who is in on this? Well, Facebook, Google, Microsoft Bing, and Yahoo. So that encompasses 5 of the most visited websites in the world. And they are enabling IPv6 on their main website. So again, like it was last year, no IPv6 specific URLs, so it's not www.v6.google.com, it's www.google.com. No mirror site. And again, it's the same kind of thing. IPv6 enabled users will use IPv6 without doing anything. And we're going to measure this reachability dashboard similar to what we used last year, showing whether or not websites are actually reachable. So, joining the launch is a commitment to commercial-grade IPv6. Industry leaders are committed. We aim to encourage additional commitment, and it builds on and makes a significant step up from World IPv6 Day in 2011. I think that we all understand that not everybody is going to get there. If you're not already working on this, you're probably not going to be able to move in time to get a network or even a big website enabled by the 6th of June. But we hope that people who are already moving will accelerate in order to meet this. And we realize that, further on down the year, as we get towards the end of this year, we're going to see more network operators and more websites turning up IPv6, and we'll start seeing more traffic. And I think that this is a way for people to realize that 2012 is the year for IPv6. World IPv6 launch is one part of ISOC's ongoing efforts to promote V6. As I spoke earlier about World IPv6 Day last year, we have a new program you can learn about on the ISOC website. It's called Deploy 360. It's a program that we have set up to provide practical support for organizations attempting to deploy IPv6. IPv6, DNSSEC, there will probably be other topics that we add. Those are the first 2. But you can go there and check it out. And what we hope is that this becomes the go-to portal for people wishing to get information about how to deploy IPv6 in their networks and their products and in their services. And we continue to support IPv6 deployment in various policy venues around the world. So we work with organizations like the OECD, for example, in trying to encourage economies around the world to encourage IPv6 deployment with their businesses. So that is the end of my presentation, and I think Hisham said that we would like to take questions at the end of all the presentations. So I will yield to the floor. I don't know how to give this to somebody else, but I am done.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, Phil. So if you could find a model sales name in the list of speakers and pass him the small ball that is next to your name, that will give give him the presentation capabilities while I present him. So our final presenters are from Sonatel, the Senegal Orange, and they are doing IPv6 activities in their ISP, and they'll be talking to us about that. Modo is the head of infrastructures and broadband services at Sonatel Telecom Group, and he manages the fixed and mobile data networks. He has more than 10 years of experience in IT networks. And also presenting with him will be Mr. Samba. He is the head of innovation and perspective at Orange Senegal since 2009, and he is in charge of new technologies and proof of concept of technologies such as IPv6. So, Modo, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Do you have the presentation capabilities yet?
Okay. Can you send the presentation? I don't see the presentation. The slide.
Just 1 second. The presentation is at the top. You see it at the top. Just click on it. It's one after. You'll see the tab.
Okay. That's fine.
Could we pass to Modo? Yes, thank you. Modo, the floor is yours. Go.
Okay. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share with you our experience in IPv6. Sonatel is an ISP, as you said, in Senegal, and we're evolving in fixed and mobile network. The agenda, why IPv6, networking strategy in one slide, Sonatel context, organizing an IPv6 project, Sonatel IPv6 organization, communication is key. I think that is what we are doing right now. Communication is very important. Lessons learned, and after I will show you some field trials which have been set up in Sonatel. Okay, as we've seen in the Isham presentation, IPv6 is the only perennial solution to global IPv4 address depletion today, and I think it is something which is very relevant for the telecom operators to be aware of that and to try to start IPv6 deployment the more quickly possible. Something also important is that IPv4 service continuity during first-time transition period is a must. Yes, we will move towards IPv6, but keep in mind that we will also have some IPv4 cloud which will remain. And one of the challenges of telcos is to be also able to deal with this transition, to be able to have the coexistence between IPv4 and IPv6. Because it's not addressed by IPv6. It's not addressed by IPv6 because migration cannot be done overnight. Some of business continuity and catalyst of business development, IPv6. Everybody is aware that today it's something which is very, very important for mobile data growth. For example, in Sonatel today, what we see since last year is that our mobile data traffic is growing very fast. The number of customers also. And one of the big challenge we have today is to be able to deliver service with very good quality. And if we check what you have today, is that all the services is the mobile data service is delivered today while using network address translation. Okay, and it's not very reliable because we are unable today to be able to deliver what we call fair usage policies to our customers, and also to be able to achieve fixed and mobile convergence, because we also have network address translation for our mobile data customers. And something which is very important with IPv6 is to be able tomorrow to stop using network address translation for our mobile customers. Something also which is very important in Africa is that the future of internet will be really based in the mobile network. What we see today in our country is that in our country, in Senegal, for Sonatel, we have today 20% of the mobile devices support today 3G and 3G plus. And it's something which is very important, and we think that the number of devices which will support 3G and 3G plus in the next 2 years will be very, very important, and will be around maybe more than 80%. We also have machine to machine. Today everybody is aware that it's very important for some companies to be able to manage the devices and some system remotely. It can help to save, to do some savings regarding operating expenditures and something like that. Something also important with IPv6 is that one size fits all solutions for enterprise, as I said, for mobile. We don't forget also everything regarding triple play, quadruple play, what we call N-play, to have IPTV, voice and video, and it is something also which is really important today in Africa, because when we take, for example, the context of Sonatel, the number of devices at the home network, we have today 3-4 devices. We have 2 TV, we have also some PC which can access internet, and the number of devices at the home network will explode in the next few years. And something which will be very important is for our customers is to be able to manage all the devices at the home network, to be able to have an easy management for the devices, simplify the management of the devices. And for that, the only perennial solution is IPv6 with what we call auto configuration function. Okay, according to the networking strategy, today I think that it's a strategy that we share in Orange France Telecom Group, is to set up a dual track architecture. When you see here the MPLS core network is preserved, we can continue to use IPv4 in our MPLS core network. But the customer premise equipment, the network devices and platforms are dual stack enabled. IPv6 prefixes are dynamically assigned to CP by means of DSCP-V6. The connected to CP devices automatically form the IPv6 addresses, and it's something which is very important for our customers. As I said today, we have an explosion of the number of devices at the home network, and with IPv6 it should be something which is very, very important. And as you see today, we have IPv6 internet and IPv4, and IPv6 and IPv4 then will coexist, and we will manage easily the transition between the two protocols, and to be able to use architecture. Sonatel context. Something which is very important is to anticipate global internet evolution. As you know today, we have many customers, and we have the responsibility to make sure that our customers can access IPv6 content whatever their location in Asia or in Europe. Something also which is very important is to be able to consolidate our technical leadership to promote IPv6 usage by consuming robust know-how, while training our engineers and give them all the capabilities to deal with this new protocol. And also something which is very important is that is the concept of business development, because today IPv6 internet in general is something which is very important for business development, and for internet and business continuity we really need IPv6, and consolidation of our technical leadership will also help us to develop this. To become also one of the major IPv6 African reference, something important in this field is to be able to launch communication and evangelization efforts. Going step by step, consolidate IPv4 address usage and depletion forecast after business development perspective and market coverage. Something also very important. To conduct audit both network and service-wise within our network, to try to check to assess IPv6 impact, including information technologies, the IT system. To derive project organization accordingly, yielding architecture, deployment, operations working group, not to forget marketing, drive, and communication working group. IT aspects may deserve specific projects and further coordination, because as you know, for telcos today, IT aspects are very relevant. We have some billing system, we also have some charging platforms, which are very important for the business of the network and for the business continuity, and it should be important to be able to have a good check in that. IPv6 training organization is also strongly encouraged. The charter project governance to make sure resources are properly allocated after project scope, milestone, and deliverable, and IPv4 ratification program. Consolidation of IPv4 forecast to be able to measure current burn rate, number of IPv4 addresses is allocated on a monthly basis, to revisit current practices, also estimate IPv4 address depletion accordingly, to be able to do some optimization, and effort can take a week or more depending on organization scope. And it's very important in this field to be able to have all the resources and to follow all these necessary. IPv6 audit to provide detailed inventory of various components. I think that we see it also in the Isham presentation, not only for routers, but also for all the servers, DNS, DHCP, and platforms. Network topologies also, current design may also influence the way IPv6 will be introduced. It's something also which is very important. To be sure that in all my TV routers, dial stack is enabled, and to be sure that when a customer needs to have what IPv6 services, I can be able to deliver the services the more quickly possible. Our project, we have two phase project. Phase 1, 2009-2012. Service scope was restricted to a pilot deployment covering both residential and corporate internet service and IPv6 VPN service market. Phase 2, 2012 and beyond. We are working on it, design and organize IPv6 enabled IPTV service offering e-learning facilities provided to Senegalese academics in collaboration with French and REM. Define engineering rules and operational procedures to generalize deployment. Investigate also mobile environment. Communication is key. IPv6 training was organized in October 2009, and it gives us the opportunity to develop financial management, IPv6 awareness also, and the training of all our engineers and staff, technical staff of Orange in Sonatel and Orange Mali, Guinea, and all the countries in West Africa. Dakar Visit Conference of October 2010, successful opportunity to promote IPv6 usage to our towards potential corporate customers. It was very interesting. And after that, we have some prospects with some customers which are today really interested to move towards IPv6. Participation to June 8 towards IPv6 Day with the native IPv6 access to Sonatel portal. Support of IPv6 and other features is mandatory. Have document in every request for proposal. It is something which is very important to be sure that all the new equipment and devices introduced in the network are IPv6 compliant. And also we plan to participate to the IPv6 world launch of next June. Some lessons learned. Transition is where most technical challenges, as I said before. IPv4 service continuity is a must. IT also should be applied first because it's really critical within for telco. Some vendors are not IPv6 minded yet. For example, the customer premises equipment and some set-top box market. This sometimes mandates in-house workarounds that delay generalized deployment. Then we have to be really careful and to check this side. Project resources must be committed, something which is also very important. Think IPv6 has an opportunity, not a conference, and to be able also to have the resources for the project. And finally, I show you some slides which I will not comment really. The Sonatel IPv6 VPN trial. I think that's some technical aspect. Okay. Today we are able through our IP and PDS network to deliver MPLS VPN IPv6 to all our customers, and as we are also connected to Orange Business Services network worldwide, it's something which is really possible for an enterprise to have sites in Singapore or elsewhere around the world. We are able to deliver IPv6 today VPN services. We also done what we call ADSL IPv6 trial with internet access to our customers. Something also we want to generalize, and it will be something which should be really important, because today we give IPv4 public addresses to our ADSL customers, and we will be able before the end of 2012 to have some customers with IPv6 addresses. ADSL customers with IPv6 addresses. We have also planned this year a mobile IPv6 field trial, because as I said, IPv6 is something which will be very relevant in the mobile part, because the future of internet in Africa will be really based in the mobile network. Not really easy to do, but I think that with the support of Orange Group, we will be able to finalize that. We have many things to do in our network in order to be able to support mobile. Thank you very much, and I think that's the time.
Thank you very much, Mudu, for your presentation. And as you pass me that presenter bowl, I'd like to now open the floor for questions and answers. One of the questions I see on the chat, are the slides available or not? The slides will be available on the AFRINEC and ISOC website for everybody that's interested. But I'd like now to ask the participants to ask, like I said, to put some order to this. If you notice there's like a small hand and after the names of the speakers, if you could raise your hand if you have a question, that way I can take them in order and we don't have people, cross-talking. So the floor is yours. Okay, I'll start out with questions if nobody has questions so far. Modo, you were talking a lot about the stuff you're doing in Sonatel, which is really brilliant. And we heard a presentation from Phil about ISPs participating at World IPv6 launch. Do you think Sonatel could be the first African ISP to sign up for World IPv6 launch?
Hello.
Modo?
If you could repeat, please. I think I lose don't hear really.
The question was, does Sonatel have plans to join as the first African ISP to sign up for World IPv6 launch on the 6th of June?
Oh yes, I think Sonatel is ready, as I said in my presentation, to join the IPv6 launch planned in June 2012, and we will do our best to be ready for this event.
Okay, that is excellent news. I see from some of the chats that I'm getting that some people do not have that hand apparent. Apparently, if you're using an iPad or something, it's not there. So, if anybody does have questions, could they just indicate to the chat and I'll pull out their name. Shadi, I see you have a question. So, Shadi, you could unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Yes. Do you hear me, Hisham? Hello?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yes. If you have any case studies that implementation for IPv6 in Europe or US that will help us in our migration and studies right now?
Well, I'll let Phil and Modo answer those questions. Just out of curiosity, where are you from, Shadi? Which affiliation?
From Egypt.
Egypt. Okay.
From Egypt, yes.
Okay, great.
So,
Modo, do you have the case study stuff? Or Phil, you mentioned some of the stuff that you're working on, measurements for IPv6 world launch. Could you talk about what will be available and what's going to be available eventually?
I don't understand. There is some noise behind.
Case studies. Case study of what's happening in Sonatel. Your experiences, best practices, case study.
Okay, case study of Sonatel. Yes, I think yes, it's available. We can share with you some case study regarding the best practice we have and some issues also we have faced during some field trial. For example, during ADSL V6 deployment, and also during the MPLS VPN deployment, we can share some best practice with you. I don't know. I just take an example. For example, during the NTS VPN deployment, telecom operators, if you already have some MPLS VPN customers which are running IPv4, it's, for example, better to separate if you have what we call, I don't know, root reflector, in order to optimize the MPBGP session. It's better, for example, if you deploy IPv6 to have dedicated routers for that. Because when we try to do it, we face some issues for that. And also for EDSL, something also to be careful is that for the DSLAM suppliers, the military access node suppliers, they do not today support fully IPv6. They have it in their roadmap, and then you will have to perform some bridging or something like that. I think that we have some case studies and some best practices we can share with you. I think it's difficult to deal with it, but you can send us an email and we can share with you.
Great, and we'll work with you on publicizing these things. I see a bunch of hands now up, so I'll take a bunch of questions and then I'll let Phil and Modo answer them. So I see, first of all, Bram, could you ask a question, please?
Hello.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Just wanted to, at the very beginning, you mentioned about having offered the training to the IP version 6 training to the engineers, the African engineers. I don't know how are you guys making sure that each and every besides the reason that each and every country is responsible for their one initiative to contact you guys to have the training in the country. I don't know, how are you guys making sure that the training is evenly distributed around the continent? And also I've seen this happening in Africa about offering the gold certified or silver certified engineer training for the IP version 6 engineer. How are you guys tackling that those problems? Thank you.
Okay, I'll take a bunch of questions and then we'll answer them collectively. So I see Conrad, if you can ask your question, please.
Hello, everybody. My question relates to if Sonatel has smaller ISPs as customers with portable address space, and if you have a policy in place or a way to easily accommodate those customers.
If Sonatel has smaller ISPs as customers, and if they have policies too?
Those customers, to accommodate those customers with portable IPv6 addresses.
Okay. I'll take Kofi's question as well.
Okay, I can answer.
Yeah, just I'll gather a bunch of questions and then because there's a bunch of people that have
Okay.
Kofi Armadan. So if Kofi isn't around, I'll take Sami's question. Sami, please go ahead.
Thank you, Vishal. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Sami, I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Could you speak louder? You're breaking up, please.
Station.
Sami, I'm sorry, your voice isn't clear. Could you submit your question in writing? We can't really hear what you're saying. So as Sami is typing his question now, I'll probably take the next hand up. So that would be Shitu. Please, could you ask your question while Sami types his?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm starting my question. Where I am is a bit noisy. You can see it on the screen.
You typed your question. Could you read it out loud, please? Let me look for it. I'm sorry, I can't find your question. Could you please repeat it out loud?
I just send it now.
Could you say it? Even if it's a bit loud, it's okay. If it's a bit noisy, no problem. Go ahead. Okay. So, Modo, yes, if you could answer the question, and I also see another question about security, like firewalling, and so go ahead, Modo.
I don't hear you. Hello?
We can hear you, Modo. Go ahead.
Okay. But okay, according to the IP firewalling and IPv6, as you know, yes, it's something also which is very important because during our deployment we had some issues because we have a DNS which were behind a firewall. What we can say today is that during our field trial, we do not really face those kind of issues because what we have done is that we remain, as I said in the beginning, in some part of the network we remain in IPv4, and for example, in the authentication part and something like that, where we have the servers which are located behind the firewall. In this part, we remain in IPv4. All the authentication parts are based, for example, in IPv4. For example, for the IDSL v6 trial. But what we are doing right now is that, for example, for the mobile IPv6 field trial, we will really face this issue. It's because at the beginning we are replacing today our firewall, and the first thing is that this firewall should be IPv6 ready, IPv6 compliant, and I think that with that we will not have some issues for that, because it's something which is very important to take into account for that. But in the first step, it is some.
Yeah, and about the question regarding do you provide services to smaller ISPs and what would your policies on that be? to provide them portable IPv6 services?
Yes, as you know, today in Senegal, in the Senegal environment, Sonatel is the biggest ISP. We also have two telecom operators, which are not Tigo and Expresso. And those ISPs, we do not provide to them IPv6 services today. There is no ISP today in Senegal which we provide IPv6 services. But what I can say is that our affiliate Orange Money, which is located in Mali, Orange Money today, we provide them IPv6 connectivity through internet. We provide them today IPv6 connectivity. We do an announcement of the IPv6 range. We can consider this as to help them to use our network as a transit to join IPv6 platform. But what I can mention is that we have today two big companies, which are multinational companies, because they have some indication from the headquarters to move to IPv6, and they have asked Sonatel to help them also to support IPv6, to set up some IPv6 and VPN. We are working with them, and I think that we will finalize before the second quarter of 2012.
Okay, last question I'm going to ask you before I go back to Phil about IPv6 World Launch. So there is a question that was submitted in writing that asks, you mentioned about IPv6 toward your DSLAM. Is IPv6 extended toward your customer CPE or just DSLAM toward your network?
Okay, as I said, if you see in my presentation, I'm talking about the networking strategy. The CPE, the customer premise equipment, supports IPv6. It's a dual track one, you know. The DSLAM today is not IPv6 compliant. We are doing what we call some kind of bridging. And when a request is, a connection request is sent, we have today a router which is Cisco 7206, which deliver IPv6 averages to the customer premises equipment through DHCP connection. The CPE is really IPv6 today. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we have a submitted question in writing that says, is it possible, and I know you touched on this quickly, but is it possible to participate in World IPv6 Day via tunneling?
Yeah, I see that question. I'm not sure I understand. Would this be for a website or for a network? For a website, I imagine. For a network, we really need to have a unique AS number because we are measuring networks by source traffic and use AS number to do that. So I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, if somebody that asked the question could clarify in writing as well. I see a bunch of questions asked at me. So the first question was about the training that Afrinet provides. What Afrinet does is it sends out a call for hosting of training, and people interested. It's on our website. We send it to our mailing list, and you as members, I'm guessing you should be receiving these emails. And what we do is we partner with local hosts in the country. So what we do is we send out our trainers and we pay for their travel fare and accommodation and everything. And what we expect from the local host is just venue and catering for the event. And we take care of the training aspect of it. We work as a plan. We try to cover as many countries as we can. We do at least 12, 13 trainings in different countries per year. We try to range them between Anglophone, Francophone, Arab countries, landlocked, coastal. We try to take into consideration everything there and try to come up with a very diverse training plan. I also see another question submitted to me, which is who's supposed to solve the situation? I'm talking about the most important points about IPv6 adoption. Is it ISP, government, others? The answer will be very useful for the IPv6 campaigning. As Phil mentioned in his slides, there always has been with IPv6 a chicken and egg situation. Who goes first, the public sector or the governmental sector? Do we regulate or do we leave it up to the industry to go on their own pace? Is there content? Is there access? And as has been proven by the ISOC initiative, IPv6 Day last year, it takes one party to actually say, we're going ahead and doing this, to actually break that standstill situation. So the content providers are the ones that took that initiative last year, and they said we're going to turn on IPv6. And as part of that, IPv6 traffic has grown very much. You see most of the major content providers now are IPv6 enabled, and you're going to see, if you follow the graph, you're going to see huge changes in their traffic IPv6 worldwide. So I'm guessing everybody has a role, and you cannot really wait on anybody in particular. But what I will tell you is there is applications IPv6 enabled. There will be content. There are CPEs working there. The only bottleneck now that I see that needs to be worked on is the access network, and that is where all of you come in. Christian, I see you have your hand up. Do you have a comment to add? Hello, Christian?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you, Hisham. Yeah, I just raised my hand because I wanted to provide an answer to a question that was raised by Mahmoud regarding the allocation of prefixes to customer sites. So we already exchanged via the chat, but I just wanted to confirm that the /64 happens to be the minimum prefix length which you're supposed to manipulate in IPv6, and then you need to take into account the local regional internet registry policies. So, for example, if I'm not mistaken, the AFRENIC still recommends the allocation of /48s to customer sites. But aside from that comment, I think you should not worry too much about the let's say the optimization of the IPv6 addressing scheme as far as the allocation of prefixes to customer sites is concerned. Not only because IPv6 has the advantage to provide quite an unlimited addressing space per se, but also because what really matters is to make sure that your customers will privilege the IPv6 usage over the IPv4 usage. And to give you an example, in Sonatel, for example, they allocate /48 to their customers, but in Europe, as far as our residential customers are concerned, we actually allocate /46. And the reason for that is that we, for example, take into account those customers who want to differentiate between their personal traffic from their professional traffic, hence the ability to at least allocate two very distinct subnets depending on the nature of the traffic that will be forwarded. Another reason is that we are also considering, just like Modu said, the evolution of some of our services to include machine-to-machine communication services. And from that standpoint, the deployment of wireless sensor networks into the customer premises to let them, for example, dynamically control their lighting system or to include motion detectors or smoke detectors will correspond to a specific traffic which probably needs to be isolated from the traffic that you will generate as a human being, if you will. So this is also a reason why we have chosen to allocate /IPv6 to our customers. That's just a brief comment to one of the questions that was raised on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian, for this. And this is a very important point. A lot of people still, when they deal with IPv6, they still think of with the IPv4 mentality of we to serve these IPs, and they feel they're wasting IP addresses if we kind of that 48 of them. That mentality has entirely changed now with the huge space of IPv4. And these and as you experiment more and as more innovation like just more applications I will probably be wrapping up now. I really like the discussion that we're having, and what I would ask from you is we will probably organize this like on a monthly basis or something, especially that I'm getting a lot of very good feedback. And I'm seeing there is a survey that will probably be sent to you via email if I'm not mistaken. But I would be very much interested in. Okay, so Kevin has sent out the survey. I'd be very much interested in knowing what you guys would like to hear. So we gave more of a general approach to IPv6. I'm seeing some technical questions. So maybe we can do a more technical webinar at one point if there's need for technical discussions on issues like VLANs and firewalling and security and stuff like that. I'll just start off by asking my presenters to say a couple of words, and thank you all. So, Phil?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Modo, if you can say a couple of wrapping up words.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And as I said, if there are some questions that have not been answered, feel free to send them over to us, and we will work on either answering them or probably putting them in next webinar session. Graham, you asked the question about training. I answered that. However, if you would like us to discuss more, I'll send me your email privately, and we can discuss more. Thank you very much for your time. There's a last question. Go ahead.
Sorry, Hisham, I've just seen a question about whether there's a good Q&A forum site for peering and IPv6 questions and discussions that anybody knows about. And I'd like to say that we have a forum which is called the African Peering and Interconnection Forum, which talks more about peering and, of course, IPv6. But the main discussion is mainly peering. But, peering is not restricted to V4 or V6. It's peering in general. So we can definitely talk about IPv6 peering, and that will also be part of the discussion for the AFCOPS meeting in Gambia. So if you're planning to come to Gambia for the African meeting, then the AFCOPS meeting will also be talking very specifically about peering and IPv6. So I'm happy to send you the details about the the African Peering Forum mailing list, so you can join on the website after.
And as I see Phil also posted the URL, which is Deploy 360, and I posted the African Task Force, which should have a bunch of mailing lists that we can take these discussions on. So as you can see, there are like 4 URLs there. You can take your pick, and we will be discussing more and more about IPv6 in the region through the task force, through Cisco initiative, in webinars, at the AF Ops day we have, and hopefully we get more and more African IPv6 participation. Thank you all for your time. This has been very useful, and see you soon. Thank you very much.
Non, mais c'est excellent. Non, c'est excellent. C'est